Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be a part of their world. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, namely the one and only Mr. Ryan Miller. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. Last week we had a chance to visit with Jason of Lorcana Thanos YouTube channel, where we talked about all the D23 news. So if you haven't had a chance to go check that out, make sure to go back and give it a listen. And today, as I alluded to in the intro, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ryan Miller. Ryan,
hello.
Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing so well. Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
we were talking off screen, but I told you this has been a dream of ours since Gamma to have you on our show, and now you are here. And
very kind of you.
James and Adara all day. I've been like, I don't want to mess this up. So
it's true.
Don't make me look bad.
Like sweaty palms over here.
And what
you're doing fine, Jared.
And what no one will know is that this is like the fourth time we've done this because he keeps hitting the stop record button and kicking Ryan out. No, I'm just kidding.
Dang. Oh, under the bus. Under the bus. Wow. I thought you guys were friends, but okay.
Yeah.
None of that happened.
Nope.
No, that's true. Okay, so we are fresh off the amazing D23 convention, and I just wanted to ask you, from a high level, what was your overall impression of the event?
I mean, it was just an amazing, it started at D23 2 years ago when we announced the game, and it was such a different time back then because, we thought we had something pretty special, but you just never know until it comes out. You just never know. And so 2 years ago, of course, we didn't know, and we got there and it was kind of slow at first, and then word got around, and then it picked up, and of course it got very busy. And then this time, word was already around before we even started, and just to see so many people come and be so excited and want to come to our booth and say hi to us and stuff, and it's just an amazing feeling, right? To be a part of something that brings so many smiles and brings so many people together. Really, that's why I do it, right? I think that's why I was put on the earth, was to make smiles and help bring people together. And so it's just great to be a part of anything that does that, right? And so it was a lot of fun. I mean, it definitely had its ups and downs, but overall it was just a blast. It was so great. I got to meet so many really cool people, hear so many great stories. It was a lot of fun.
I just have to say, one thing that is forever etched in my memory was that opening day, amidst everything, and you jumped up on that little stage there with the ink caster. And you had it held high above your head. And I was just this too slow pulling out my phone to get a picture of that moment.
Somebody got a picture. I saw it posted. That was interesting because we had a whole line situation there, which we ended up resolving. Disney worked with us, and we got it resolved. But yeah, the whole situation, I just wanted to make sure people were safe, and we were going to get people in line, that sort of thing, and we got it squared away.
We appreciate all that you and Team Ravensburger did.
Yeah, the team was amazing. The team was great. It's hard to know. It's hard to know how to deal with that kind of stuff, even when you've got experience, because you just never know what it's going to be like. And so I think they did a great job. Disney was great to work with. Yeah. So then, by day two, it was a smooth running machine. So, yeah.
I agree. It was very easy to maneuver through that booth and the whole thing after that first morning. But I mean, honestly, that's kind of how D23 runs. They figure it out as they go every 2 years. They just forget everything. Show. They forget everything, and then they remember everything.
Yeah, I'd never been before the last one, and so I'd heard of it, but I'd never been to it. So it was just a really fun experience, and then coming back and being able to do a panel this time, and that was really fun. And then just doing a signing event with Steve and Shane Hartley, and that was really cool. And it was neat. It was like I was on the another side of I started on this side of the curtain, and then 2 years later I'm on the other side of the curtain. It was kind of neat.
Well, actually, that's actually something I want to talk about, which was the panel. So you were on stage. Well, okay, first off, let me just compliment you on the everybody look under your chairs bit, because That was so perfect. I think I told you this at the show, but that was so perfect.
Thank you.
You made so many people look, and it just
so
felt,
if you're
felt
for
great.
those of you listening or watching, basically at one point during the panel, because we gave folks a little gift pack on their way out. And so I got to be the one to tell them, they got a few boosters of Shivering Skies. They've got the Mickey, the Sorcerer Mickey card, the D23 card, and they got the first year pin. And so I decided to have a little fun. And I said, all right, so if you'll look under your chairs, you'll see some really nice carpet. It's top notch. They spared no expense on that carpet. And that was pretty fun.
And I immediately bolted under my chair. Like my hand went straight down. Yep.
The thing is, you can't do the under the chair thing because somebody will find it well before you announce it. Like somebody's gonna find. I'm sure people looked under their chairs before before that moment to see if we were gonna do anything like that.
It was the comedic timing, the timing of just enough space between if everybody will look under their chairs.
That's
you'll
the key
see some
right there.
Very nice carpeting.
Yeah, you can't wait too long because then people are like getting upset, and you wait too short and you lose some of the fun of it. I've done improv comedy for like 30 years. I started back in high school. I graduated at South High School in Bakersfield, California. I graduated in 1992, before the turn of the century. And started doing improv and just really enjoyed it. It's been something that it's one of the loves of my life, basically. And so it definitely comes with some perks. Like I'm more comfortable on stage and I can mess around with folks and that sort of thing. And so it's a lot of fun. So I actually came up with that joke the day before when we did a rehearsal. And I said, and I asked my PR person, Lisa, and she was like, oh no, that's fine. Yeah. You always got to make sure, but yeah, that was pretty fun. It was a really fun panel. I didn't know who was going to come. I didn't know, like, honestly, even now, it was like, I don't know, we're going to get people to come out for this thing. I have no idea. And then we ended up filling the house, about 700 folks, I think, 600 folks, something like that.
Yeah, of course.
So not a bad deal.
Yeah, so speaking of the panel, on stage along with you was Christina Ariel as the host, Steve, Shane, Rochelle, and Imagineer Brent Strong.
Yeah.
So this is the game you've been working on for years at this point.
Yeah.
It's been out for a year. Big splash in the TCG world, 1 billion cards sold, all that kind of stuff. And now you're on a stage, with a light shining right on Disney Lorcana. So let's turn it back when the game was nothing more than Project Famous. Did you ever think it would be this big, this fast?
No. I mean, I've been working at TCGs, 20, 25 years, something like that. And it's a tough market. Like, it's a really tough market to make a splash in. It's super dominated by the top three. It's really tough. So you have to have a certain level of, I don't know, like cynicism, or at least like you got to guard your own feelings, right? You're just like, you hope, right? And I believed, and a lot of us believed, that we really did have something special. When, I got to see the art before it came out. I got to, I worked on the gameplay, worked with all the teams. I mean, I worked in game design for just under a year before I moved up to brand manager. And once I did that, it's like, then I started working with all the other teams and really understanding and helping, kind of steer the ship in one direction. And so part of my job is to kind of let people know, like, hey, we've got something really cool here. And like, I remember before the first D23 saying, hey, people are going to cosplay as our Dreamborn characters. People are going to get tattoos of the icons that we've made. And at that time, I think it sounded like boasting, but that's all happened. Like that's happened. I mean, it happened at D23 2 years ago. We had, I'm sorry. No, I'm misremembering. It happened at Gen Con when we launched. We had a Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician. We had a Wayward Sorcerer. We had Mickey Wayward Sorcerer. We had, and then we had, oh my gosh, we had one more, but it just left my brain. But yeah, so that's kind of part of my job. So I'm like, okay, everyone, this is very special. I think we're going to make a big splash, but what does that mean? What does a big splash mean? And of course, no one knows until launch. And then, we had that big launch at Gen Con, and that was, great, except for that first day. But once again, I didn't like that the line did, there was no like organization. it was just not something Gen Con's ever done. They've never done that, right? They've never had to do a pre-line for any booth before. And thankfully, you know, it was actually Mike Ritchie who was our marketing lead at the time, and he worked with Gen Con, and they got it done. And then by the next day, Gen Con had, you know, communicated out, but for the first time in their history, they did a pre-line for a booth, and it was much better for that. Yeah. So then, you know, obviously at that point, you're like, okay, we've got something here. It, you know, started selling really well. And then of course we had some issues with getting enough product out there, right? Just to make sure that it could get in the hands of the players and the collectors and things like that. Our production team just moved mountains. They did an amazing job. And then right around Christmas, I think or right about December, I should say, is when that started to ease up. And yeah, so it, you know, you just never know until it's out there and it's connecting with people, and it's you know, and to have such a big opening, I've never seen another game do that. I know Pokemon had a pretty explosive opening, but maybe a year after it launched, there was a bit of a slow burn, if I recall. Now that was a long time ago; it was in '99. But it seemed to me it had but I just never seen that before, and so it was something that I was really proud of, and also like I wanted to make sure we could still maintain like a good experience for people, because that's what's most important to me. I think I owe it to you guys. I owe you the best experience I can give you. You know, given the time and resources I'm allotted, you know, because y'all are the ones spending your hard-earned money, and more importantly, spending your time on what we were making. And I take that very seriously, and so does the team. We take that very seriously, and I think it shows in what we put out there. I think like you know, when you look at I always like to say, and I said this, I think I can't remember, but I think I said it at the panel. The three ingredients of a great experience are love, attention to detail, and hard work, right? Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, the attention to the detail is the most important part, because that is how you show love. That is how you show that you love this. That love was put into this, is all the details, and that's why I think Lorcana really shines. I mean, there's so much great attention to detail in this game, and it's the most beautiful game I've ever worked on. I mean, the creative team, Shane Hartley's team, have just really. I mean, Ravensburger is already, like, they make beautiful games, beautiful puzzles. Like, the visuals that it's just one of the reasons I was like, okay, I think they can do this. Before I took the job, I was like, they make beautiful stuff. And so, yeah, I meandered a bit there, James, but I think I hopefully answered your question.
Absolutely.
I have to say, whenever we have somebody from Ravensburger on here, I always pitch this idea that we should have a history of, like, the making of Lorcana. And that's one of the things I'd love to know is how they moved heaven and earth to get that first chapter reprint before holiday. Because from what I understand, it's like impossible to get time in those printing sets. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I hope someday I can tell you that story, Jared.
Yes.
But it's not for me today, unfortunately.
This is not me asking you to tell me that story. I'm just saying I hope there's
I know. Yeah, we just don't talk about like that nitty gritty stuff like that. But I'm extremely proud of the production team and our production partners, because I've never seen a change like that before. I mean, it was really night and day. We were really, because I didn't love it. I mean, people are like, oh, the boxes are going for the X and Y and Z or whatever, and I was like, I don't like that, because I want collectors, I want players to get their hands on this. And so really, once we're able to get more, and the only thing we can do about that, of course, is to put more product out, right? And so once we were finally able to do that, you could kind of see those box prices drop, and it was like, okay, cool. Like, I wanted the players to get it. I wanted, you know, so that was good. But yeah, someday we'll tell that story, I'm sure. That's a great story.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to see like a Disney Plus documentary about Lorcana and like it include cool. all that fun nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, it's, you know, some we can talk about, some we can't, but yeah, it was quite a ride. I'll tell you what, it's like this game is like riding a bucking bronco that's also riding a roller coaster, right? It's like it's a very complicated. I mean, trading card games in general is a very complicated product, like from every asset, right? From every facet. It's just every angle is very, very complicated, and so it can be a wild ride.
For sure. Well, one of the other things that I really liked about the presentation at D23 was when you and Steve and Rochelle were just sharing stories about how like this game is changing lives and forging stronger relationships with people. And I'm sure you yourself have lots of stories of that you've experienced. But so I was just kind of curious, what role has Disney Lorcana played in your family? So like, do you get a chance to play? Do they love it as much as you? Like, what kind of role does that play for yourself?
I mean, it's interesting. So my wife is not a gamer, but she's otherwise very good. No, I'm kidding. That's a terrible way to put it. I just mean she's not a gamer, but she's great. She will play, and she's actually a lot of times it's when I'm working on a game design, she's the first person I show it to, because a non-gamer will give you a different style of feedback that often is needed, especially at an early stage of a game design, right? Like they'll be like, hey, this doesn't make sense, or and she's a UX researcher and a content strategist. And so it's just like amazing. Like her kind of feedback has always been super valuable. And so she's been super helpful in that. I actually have a couple of really good friends of mine, Ted and Eden, who it's funny the way we met was actually years ago at Gen Con. And I had done a game with a company and they were purchasing the game, and the person was like, oh, hey, the game designer's actually coming to the booth in a minute. If you want to hang out, he'll sign your game. And so sure enough, I show up and they're like, oh, hey, can we take a picture and sign your game? I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then later that night, I see them out and about in Indy somewhere, and randomly, and we start talking about it. And I asked Ted his favorite games that he's playing, and he starts to list like his top 3 games were 3 of my games, but they were kind of like his favorite game. He's like, oh, my favorite game is this game called Dark Deeds. And I'm like, okay, no one knows about that game. Now it actually just got a reprint, so some people might know about that game. Modifius just picked it up. I thought he had looked me up in the interim time and looked at my BGG page and was trolling me. Like, honestly thought that's what was happening. And he's like, oh, there's this other game, called Epic PvP I really like. And I'm like, okay, dude, come on. Like, you're trolling me. But he wasn't. Ted is like one of the most genuine. He's a goofy teddy bear, man, I tell you. And so we end up talking, and Eden his wife Eden is delightful, and we're just having a nice time. And I'm like, where are you guys from? And they say Kent, Washington. And I go, really? Because I live about a half hour from Kent, actually. And here we are in Indianapolis, right? So these guys are board game fanatics. They have, like, you've heard of the Calic shelves. Like, they've got like 4 of them and the corner piece, and they're all full of games. Just fanatics. And they've been great friends of mine for years. And like, Ted was in my wedding when Holly and I got married, and I was in Ted's wedding when he and Eden got married. And really great friends of mine. We vacationed together, that sort of thing. But when Lorcana starts bubbling up, I'm they're both huge Disney fans, but I'm like, well, they're board gamers, and I didn't know if they were going to get into it, and they got into it. Let me tell you what, they go to like 2 to 3 weeklies a week. They have just about a play set of the whole game. Like, it's impressive to me, and so we'll play a lot. In fact, tomorrow night I'll be heading out to a local with them. So yeah, it's just been really neat to see, to meet lots of people and just kind of play. And I don't like announce who I am or anything like that. I'm just kind of go and play, and that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun stories from that. I think my favorite, most recent one was at my local. It's this place called the Game Vault in Enumclaw, Washington, and really cool. It's an old bank, so it's like the vaults have been converted into like game rooms and stuff. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
And just a delightful couple that runs it, and they do an amazing job. Anyway, so I go there, and this little girl wants to play me. She's like 9 years old. And I say a thing, like, when kids play me, I always let them know. I say, look, I'm not going to throw the game. I know some adults will let kids win. I don't do that. That way, if you win, you know that you really beat me. So I'm not going to throw this game. And she looks me dead in the eyes, and she goes, I won't throw it either. I said, deal.
and who won?
Oh, I won, but it was still like, but it's like, okay, right? It's like, I don't do that. Like with my nephews and nieces, I never throw games that way. They're like, oh, I finally win. Plus it's more fun that way for me, because I get to be kind of the Disney villain when I'm playing them, and kind of, that's always fun. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun for me in my life of just like, you know, enhancing some of my relationships and but also just meeting lots of new friends, you know, and it's just been wonderful.
That's great.
That's a debate we've had before too about introducing the game to new people. Do you let them win, or do you let them make them earn their win? So anyway,
yeah, back in my early days in the industry, I was working as I managed a retail store for Wizards of the Coast that used to have retail stores up in the Northwest here. And they had a thing called "Let the Wookiee Win," right? And I was always kind of mixed on that. I was like, you know, I don't know, but I think it really depends on the person. Like, I think some people you let win depending on what your goal is. I don't do it when I'm playing Lorcana, but like if I'm selling a game, you know, back in my retail days, you could just kind of tell, right? Some people like a challenge. Some people are just like, you know, but
yeah. Okay, so bringing this back to D23, there was a lot of things that were announced at that panel. Too many for me to like sit here and list off. I just have to ask, what was your favorite thing for you to announce? Like when you were prepping for this, you're like, man, people are going to lose their mind about this thing. What was that thing?
Oh, I mean, Pixar, I think is clearly the most exciting one. I mean, it's, and especially once you see what we're doing, it's really exciting. But it was, I toyed with a few different ways to announce it. Like I came up with that. We didn't execute very well. The bit we did was like, now you can, you know, we announced Pocahontas, and I said, now you can do all the princesses. Rochelle's like, well, there's one more. And I'm like, yeah, but that's another studio. And then they go, Pixar. Oh yeah, Pixar. We have Pixar now. And I was like, that was all right. The original way I wanted to do it was actually to have somebody hand me a paper, a card. And I look at it, I go, oh, there's another announcement, but I can't read it. And I pull out a desk lamp, and I just like pull off the desk lamp, and I go, oh, we're having Pixar. But we couldn't get the desk lamp, so we pivoted to that. But yeah, I think that's really exciting. Pixar is just, I mean, I've really enjoyed. I've always enjoyed Pixar's kind of very high emotional IQ, right? And the way they tell stories, this kind of, you know, show don't tell as much as possible kind of thing, which is just really resonant and super fun. But I also think it maintains a lot of the whimsy and fun that we want in a Lorcana game, right? That kind of, you know, Lorcana being a Disney game just has that kind of, there's whimsy there. Yeah, there might be like, you know, scary things or spooky things or you know, there's villains and whatever, but there's also kind of a playfulness and a whimsy to it. And Pixar just is, you know, and so like months ago, it might be almost a year ago now, we went down to Pixar Studios in Oakland just to start talking, you know, just to open the talks up with them, and we get to meet lots of folks there. There's really cool people. I mean, it's just, and the Pixar Studios are, it's it's amazing. They take us on a tour, and the nice lady who was giving a tour, she was actually kind of a senior person, if I recall, at Pixar, but she also had been there so long that she just knew everything, and so she would just do tours for folks, right? For like people working with them and stuff like that. And so she goes, "Oh, let's go to the animators area. We allow them to decorate their areas." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. Okay." Now, in your mind, you're probably thinking like, "Oh, cool. They must have really cool cubes with like, you know, themes and stuff." No, we're talking like movie sets. Like they had these like different areas, and like one, they called it the jungle pod. So, and their cubes are actually tough sheds inside this huge like darkened I don't know, warehouse thing. And so they're just, they look like there was one that looked like a downed aircraft, and there was one that looked in the jungle, and there was like one that looked like a stone temple, and like it was just so cool. So it's just like, oh man, see, I have in my home office right here, I have my door is actually a bookcase. It's like a secret entrance, and that's as close as I'll ever get to that. They've got like these really, anyway. So they're really cool, really great folks to work with, and so it's, you know, it's really exciting to bring them into Lorcana, and I think the fans are really gonna go nuts.
I can't wait to see Tow Mater, Knight of Radiator Springs, Floodborn. Just saying, Tow Mater in some knight costume, yeah.
I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of that particular card.
Okay, so
plus it's way more fun. I remember when like I was a kid and my brother and I decided we're going to break into our parents' room to see what our presents were, and we figured, and we poked some stuff in the lock, because that's what they do in the movies. That's all we knew. We do just poke some stuff in the lock, and of course whatever we poked in there broke off. So now, like, and I'll never forget, my stepdad, he comes home and he sees that he's got to change the knob on the door of his room, and he just looks at us and he goes, "You know what? If you want to find out what's in there, just go in there. If you want to ruin Christmas, just go." And he was just so disappointed. I was like, so it's like, don't ruin it. Like, it'll come. You guys will see it. It'll be fun. You wouldn't want to know anyway now. It'll be much more fun when you see it, when we announce it.
It's funny because we've been talking for months in this debate of, in the Discords and at leagues and everything, like when, if Pixar, yes, no, maybe, what? And now that we know, the debate is now which franchise is first? Are we getting Toy Story? Are we getting Up? Which one are we getting first now? So the debate has now changed to like, okay, we're getting it. Now what specifically are we getting from Pixar?
I know. It's so exciting, right? Because they have so many great characters and stories, and oh my, we've had quite a lot of those talks in-house as well. I know the answer, but I'm not going to tell you.
I don't envy the choices of trying to fit into those first 204 cards.
Well, you gotta and you gotta like think long term too, right? Like you gotta so it's picking the franchises, even Pixar aside, like picking the franchises for a set is a whole process. We have teams, we have narrative team and the marketing team and the art and the design team, and they all kind of get together and then brand. The team I'm on, we kind of work with marketing to talk about, okay, here's when the new ones are going to pop in, and then narrative says, well, here are the ones we want to kind of support the story of that set, that sort of thing. So it's a whole thing, just to make sure that that the franchises support the story of the set, but also we get a nice range that are going to be exciting to fans, right? So it's a whole deal.
At the beginning, for Oswald.
Yeah, at the beginning, it was not a whole thing. It was me, Steve Warner, and this other guy named Kelly Diggs. He was our original narrative designer, and we just like did some research and kind of picked stuff we liked, and it felt like kind of like that's a lot of power. I don't like this, but we had to make decisions because we had to design the cards, and so we kind of we had a bunch of meetings and we talked, and that's why there's a lot of Sword in the Stone. In the first few sets, because I love that movie. So yeah, but now it's a much more rigorous process.
I can see every time you guys give us like a little bit more information about how the whole process works. I can see what you mean about how it's just so many different moving parts and so many different things having to happen in order to get just one set out.
And I heard this phrase a long time ago. I think it was on another podcast. That we're not here to be right; we're here to get it right. And I think that's one of the things that I always say to the teams. Like, our goal is we're never going to be perfect, but if we're learning and we're iterating and we're getting a little better every time, that's we're going to keep making a great product, right? And so, our launch certainly wasn't perfect, right? And but we're getting better every time, and I think that's an important component, right? It's and that I think like choosing franchise is a good example. We started with 3 people, and now we have this whole rigorous process that's much better, I think, to make sure that all the fans get something out of it, and there's a story that's being supported.
So one of the slides we saw at D23 was a preview of 5 cards from set 6, showing Mickey and Friends as pirates. And so I have to ask, but way back before the game was released, you said your favorite deck you were playing was a pirate deck.
It's true.
And will we ever see that Ryan Miller pirate deck list?
Well, it's getting better. It's getting more of it's getting out there. But a lot of the, that was just error on my part. I should not have been talking about that deck because it's about the cards.
We latch onto everything.
Yeah, I know, but it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm talking about the things I like, and I'm like, I made a pirate deck, and it's like, yeah, dude, with like which cards and some of those cards don't exist. Like some of those cards were in design and just didn't end up doing them, right? It's like one of those like, so the answer is no, because you won't see a deck list because a lot of the cards they got changed, or sometimes we swap out the characters or something like that, and so you'll see me play a pirate deck. But it won't be that one, unfortunately.
So we're putting the Ryan Miller pirate deck list to rest here.
Yeah, I think we could do that. Yeah, because there's just a few cards that I liked, but were probably a bit too much, and maybe from a power standpoint or even a complexity standpoint. And so they changed, or they completely, sometimes we tweak them and to balance them, and sometimes we pull them out entirely. We call it a hole. We made a hole, so now we got to fill the hole with a different card, right? Like that's how that works. So unfortunately, no, there won't be that deck. I don't play a lot of constructed anymore when I'm out and about. I play Pack Rush now because that's a quicker way. I like to play as many people as I can, basically, while I'm out at an event or a challenge or something like that. And so Pack Rush, part of the reason I came up with Pack Rush was that it was a way for me to some of our friends in Europe were doing like a 1-pack kind of gameplay thing, and it sounded kind of neat to me. And then I had the idea to why not make 2 and then maybe use the puzzle cards as ink, kind of thing. And so I play that mostly, but the deck I play right now that I have, if someone wants to play constructed, I have a Sapphire Amethyst Madam Mim Merlin deck. That was a dynamic that I got to design starting in set 2, and I thought it was really fun, and I love that movie, and that scene is like one of the best parts of the whole movie. And so to be able to kind of recreate that a little bit, so yeah, but eventually, like when the next set comes out, I'll be able to really have a good pirate deck. And just the art we were able to show you guys of Mickey and Friends as pirates, it's so fun. And oh my, I gotta say, every time I get to see artwork for this game, like oftentimes we'll get uncut sheets into the office to like check for color correction and stuff like that, and I'll just like pick up a sheet and just start looking at it, and it's just the art just gets better and better. It's just amazing.
Yes, it does. Shane,
really proud.
Shane Hartley and his team.
Yeah,
major props.
Yeah, they really have done. And then the hundreds of freelance artists that we work with. It's a tough job. I mean, it's a specific style that we need, and it's there's a lot of detail, a lot of demand on the detail, stuff like that, and so it can be but we've got a great stable of artists, and then we have a really great team of art directors and graphic designers. It's just amazing.
So what you said segues perfectly into what I was going to talk about next, because before we leave the subject of D23, I just wanted to express our collective gratitude that you and Steve and Rochelle and Ryan and you are Ryan and Cheyenne came down to our get together on Friday after the convention ended.
Super fun.
It was, release day of Shimmering Skies. It'd been a long day at D23, and the fact that you guys came down to spend time with our gathering, I think really speaks to the care and the culture of Ravensburger towards caring about the community. Yes,
I eroded James's card. Yeah, I made. It was my card that I eroded because I needed that card to vanish. So James was playing, and he was just beating me terribly, and so I just eroded a card I had to just make it be prepared, but only for opponents.
Hey, when you have the power, why not?
I think it's one of the rules of villainy. Like, what good is having power if you can't abuse it once in a while?
It is, yes. I think you're right.
So, no, it's not. I made that up, but I told the narrative team, like, that should be one of the rules of villainy. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I love doing that kind of stuff. I remember the first Gen Con when Steve and I came, and everyone cheered, and my son at the time, who was like 7 months, he just like burst into tears. So it went from yay to oh. But I just love doing that. It's a lot of fun. I love meeting y'all, and now at D23 I didn't stay very long because my battery was quite empty, but I still managed to play a few games and lose a few games and that sort of thing. So it's pretty fun. But I love doing it. Always let us know when those things are happening, because if we can make it, we'll come out. It's a lot of fun. But I appreciate the gratitude, and to me, I'm just grateful that y'all do what you do. I mean, especially as content creators, like you all are really helping growing the community and putting stuff out there. Like that's a big deal in this day and age, to put something out, create something, put it out there. So I really appreciate what y'all do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of growing the community, that is a great segue into our next question of how are you feeling about the health of the Lorcana community as a whole? So is the game bringing in new people that you were hoping to bring in? Do you think it's meeting the needs of competitive players and collectors? And like, is it continuing to grow as fast or faster than you predicted? Like, just how are you feeling about the health of the community of Lorcana?
I love the Lorcana community is amazing. I mean, they're such a great group of folks. They're really nice. They're everywhere I go, like, even when a lot of times I'll come to a store and not say who I am, I'm just going to come in and play or whatever. And it's, but it's just, everyone's so welcoming and I'm really proud of that. I think part of it is, I think, a Disney game. Like, it's kind of hard to be grumpy when you're playing like your princess deck, or you're playing and you got Mickey and Minnie on the table. And I think that has that effect. But I just think we, Disney fans, I just think we got a really good group of folks, and I think the thing that I've really enjoyed, and I think most of us really enjoyed, is the families. Like, we've seen families. I've gotten no end of stories of families coming to talk to me and saying, thank you. This is what we do together. This is we play with our kids. I had a lady at D23 tell me about how there's 3 generations of a family play. Her sons play and her grandkids play, and she plays. And that's just really neat. Like that, I think one of the things I love the most about tabletop gaming is that it is really a great way to make memories with your friends and family, and like sit down and relate with them in a way that, other types of gaming don't do that. And so it's really satisfying to hear those stories. And a lot of couples too. That's the other thing I hear quite a bit is, my wife wouldn't play other games with me, but she'll play Lorcana with me. I had a kid so proud. He said, I got my dad to play, and here's the card that did it. And he shows me a beast card. He's like, I showed him this card, and then he said, okay, I'll play. And I was like, that's amazing, dude. I love that.
I'm still waiting for that card to show my wife. Haven't found it yet.
You'll get there, Jared. But yeah, so I think, I'm really pleased. I think, I talked to a lot of store owners, and one of the things I asked them is, are we bringing new people into your stores? And it's unanimously yes. Every time I talk to a store owner, like, absolutely, bringing people we've never seen before coming to our store, and not only buying product, but coming to the weekly and coming and enjoying the game, going to a store. And you got to think, like, if you've never done it, going to a store to play a game can be a bizarre experience, right? It's like, normally, if it's not within your normal kind of frame of reference, you go to stores to like look at products and like buy things and that sort of stuff, and so to sit down and play with people that you may or may not know, that's kind of different. And so for people to for a game to bring people together and kind of over that hump there, I think that's pretty special, And so, no, I'm really pleased with that. And I think, like, with Lorcana Quest coming out, I think we're going to be able to serve that group a lot better too. Like, we're going to really have a lot more really fun activities and really fun things that I think are really going to turn that up. I think leagues are pretty good, but we're gonna get them better. We're gonna make it better.
I cannot wait for that. I'm like the unofficial welcome person for our 3 local leagues that we attend.
Oh, that's awesome.
I am so excited for just to like hearing the plans that are in place to kind of support that side. Because like, that's my favorite way to engage with Lorcana is with those people that I see on a weekly basis. When those new faces come in, it's just such a great feeling.
And that's the thing. I mean, there's lots of ways to Lorcana, right? Like, there's lots of ways to do it. And if you want to be competitive, we have that. And I'm definitely, surprised at how quickly the competitive environment has grown. Like, we didn't expect. Yeah, I mean, of course we didn't expect. Our first announcement was like, oh, we have 512 seats, right? And like, that quickly was proven to be insufficient. And we went up to
15 seconds.
40. Yeah, kind of something like that. And so that's just been really neat to see people really get into it. I think one of our goals, Steve and I designing the game, we wanted a game that veteran gamers could really find some strategy in and some skill testing in, but also was, welcoming enough that new gamers could have a reasonable chance at picking it up. And so to see that happen, is pretty neat. It's pretty satisfying to, like, you tried to do something and we ended up doing it, and that was kind of neat. So yeah, pretty proud of the crew out there.
Is there anything like shocking or surprising about the Disney Lorcana community?
I mean, like I said before, I was surprised at the families. Like, we weren't sure about that. Like, I think early on we saw that couples were going to get into it, and I think like part of that is because of Villainous. Like, we knew through Villainous, like the kind of the adult Disney fan that enjoys like playing in the Disney kind of universe. And a lot of them are couples. Like, Villainous is a really fun game, and it's a fun 2-player game, and so a lot of couples will play it. And so like I was kind of expecting that, but to get the families involved, especially the younger kids with the multi-generational kind of playing, like I just didn't expect that. Like that was surprising to me, and early on we were concerned about like people will see it's a Disney game, maybe they'll think it's a game for kids, and of course we didn't want that. We wanted it to very clearly to be this is a game as an adult you can sink your teeth into. And we're not a kids game, we're definitely a family game, and I think that is something that we started seeing early on, and now we're pivoting more toward to serve that part of our audience better. And Quest, I think, is part of that, but we have some other stuff that we're finding as well. But that's been really neat. I mean, it's just, yeah. I had this lady at D23, another lady. She super sweet. I actually met her last summer, her and her husband, because I went on the Disney cruise to teach Lorcana to the folks on the cruise, and she was there. Her and her husband were there, so I taught them how to play. And then I saw them at D23. Like, oh, do you remember us from the boat? And I'm like, oh my god, what's up? And her 2 sons now, they're in their 30s, and she's like, they're bonding together over this game, and it just as a mother, it just makes you so happy. And now they go to like tournaments together, and they're going to a challenge event and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we, just stuff like that. That is so fun. It is so cool. And I think it's just like obviously, Disney just has this multi-generational feel. Like, if you're a younger person, you've got your Moanas and your Elsas. And if you're like me, you have your Little Mermaids and Bells and stuff like that. And so it's just really neat that the game itself can hold up to that. Right. It's just kind of, I'm really proud of that part.
It's true.
Well, we already hinted at it a little bit, but there is definitely a competitive scene in Disney Lorcana at this point in time. We've had 6 Disney Lorcana challenges that have happened at this point. We're about to have one in Toronto this weekend, I believe. Yeah. So how is the Ravensburger team feeling about the competitive scene for Lorcana?
I mean, overall, very good. I think that the stuff that we don't feel good about is stuff that we want to improve, really. I mean, I think for my part, I'd like to have more stuff for non-competitors to do. Like, we have a great set of side events and things like that, and I think we're looking to expand that part of things. Always kind of looking to improve the competitor experience as well. I think in North America, we're working with PPG, and I've known them. George and his wife that own it. I've known them since back when I worked with Bondi years ago, and always really respected their expertise and their experience, and they're just on the ball. And then we also partner with some companies in Europe to do a similar thing. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Like, there's no reason to do that. So I think we're feeling pretty good about it. We just want to get the experience. We just want to learn and get better and improve. And a lot of that is we're taking some swings. Like, we're the 2 game rounds is definitely a swing that we're taking, to see what we think about that. And it's by no means a settled thing, right? We're always looking at our experiences, and 2 game rounds is one of those things we're looking at and saying, is this correct? Is this what we want? That sort of thing. So yeah, it's really neat to. And when I went to Atlanta, that was the first challenge event. Actually, it's the only challenge event that I've been to. Although I will be going to Vegas at the end of September, and
whoop, whoop.
Of course, I'll be in Seattle because that's where we're based out of. So it's an easy trip. And then, of course, I'm going to European national or European regionals and North American regionals as well, and worlds. But just to see so many people come to. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Southern California and dreamed of being a game designer since I was 11 years old. So to see a game I co-designed bring that kind of support was quite amazing, I got to say.
Yeah.
And just to see like the breadth of people, there were so many people at Atlanta that were competing, and this is their first TCG, this is our first big tournament, and I'm like, man, that's so cool to like take that leap and give that a try and just see what it's like, yeah, it was just really cool. So yeah, no, I'm really proud of it. But we're getting better. We're getting better.
Las Vegas will be my first DLC, and I'm super excited. I don't know if I'm ready for 9 hours of Lorcana, but I'm training. I'm doing Zach Bibbin style. Got to exercise that
Yeah,
muscle.
you gotta hydrate. You need your protein. You know, that sort of thing. Keep hydrated.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. No, it should be fun. Steve and I will be there. There's a few of us coming out, but Steve and I are the two that I know are coming. And so that should be a lot of fun. And of course, it's Las Vegas, so it's always
Heck
fun.
yeah.
Steve and I have a tradition on trips where we, on the last night, go to a really good steak place, and there's a lot of really good steak in Las Vegas. So
Yes, there is.
There is no shortage of those there.
So in other words, good luck anyone trying to track you down at the end of the night, because
no, that's a sacred event. Usually it's the Sunday night and everyone's gone anyway, so we just kind of go, like, we'll go to, like, at Gen Con we usually go to like St. Elmo's or something like that. But yeah, it's kind of a tradition of ours that dates way back in the day. We've been working together just off and on for 20 plus years. I mean, I knew him. He came up in retail just like I did. And so, yeah, we got quite a tradition, so.
So, kind of on the flip side of this, one of the things I love is how you seem to spread Disney Lorcana in a smaller scale way. Like, what I mean by this, and you've talked about this today already, is you were talking about your Disney cruise where everybody got a starter deck. You know, before D23, you were kind of at downtown Disney handing out pins. You were at Disneyland handing out packs. After D23, you were in a bunch of different local game stores in Southern California participating. Like, are these, and I'm sure there's a million more things that you could share that we aren't even aware of, but are these moments planned, or are you just always ready to spread Lorcana cheer?
I mean, so yes and no is the quick answer there. Like, some are planned, some are not. I think I love being, if I'm in a town and I have the time, I'll generally, and there's a Lorcana event happening, I will generally try to show up to it, right? A lot of my trips tend to be in the week because I'm doing meetings like with Disney or something like that. So I don't often get to do that. Not nearly as often as I'd like to. But yeah, after D23, we stuck around. Steve went to a couple stores. Steve and I both went to, oh gosh, I'm so mad at myself. I can't remember the name of it. It's a really cool store, really good group of folks.
Wildcard Cyclone?
I can't remember. I don't want to say it because I can't remember. Oh, I'm sorry. If you're listening, I'm sorry. That might have been it, James. I'm not sure. But it was a lot of fun. It was a really great group. There was like 40 some odd folks there, and it was just really cool. They were having a Shimmery Skies sealed, I think, and so we went out and we built our own sealed deck so people could play their sealed against us, or we play Pack Rush, or but a lot of it's just signing cards and taking pictures and stuff. It's a lot of fun. So that, like, handing the pins out at Downtown Disney was a spur of the moment thing that was actually suggested by one of our social media folks. And I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. And originally I was like, maybe hand out cards, and I was like, I'm afraid to do that. So let's instead let's get big bags of the pins and let's just hand out as many as we can. And that was really neat to see everybody and say hi and take some pictures and hand out pins. And we gave pins to the staff. I was handing pins to the staff. I'm like, thanks for putting up with us. Here's a pin. Thanks for putting up with us. Here you go. It was neat to see everybody there. But so it's a little bit of both. Like, but I usually just, if we have the chance to see go out and see a group of folks, like coming to see y'all's, get-togethers at Gen Con or at D23. That was part. You guys said it, and I'm like, that sounds like a blast. Let's do it. I try at events to always have some time, kind of flexible time, so that we can do those kinds of things. It's just fun. It's just, it's a lot of fun. And we worked really hard on this game, and so it's nice to come out and see the smiles and meet the people and that sort of thing. It really kind of helps re-energize you when you're, neck deep in spreadsheets and days of all meetings and stuff. I'm not complaining about my job by any stretch, by the way, but it definitely, there are definitely days that are more draining than they are refreshing. And so going out to meet you all and play games and stuff is absolutely one of those like soul-filling moments for me. So we do it whenever we can.
Brings a different flavor to the day.
Yeah, it definitely does that. And I don't get to play as much. Ever since I left design, I don't get to play as much. So I play it too. So I just enjoyed that aspect of it.
Okay, so you mentioned knowing Steve for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
So you always like to call him the Dream Crusher.
No, the Dream Killer.
the Dream Killer.
Dream Killer. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious, what is the office nickname for you?
Oh, I don't know. If they have one, they don't tell me. So maybe it's a bad one. I don't know. But
after 20 plus years, Steve doesn't have a nickname for you?
I mean, he calls me Miller. He'll go, Miller. Because we used to, I mean, when we were both at Wizards of the Coast R&D, I'm always kind of thinking of game ideas and game mechanics and stuff like that. And so I would just design games, even if like Wizards wasn't looking for a game. I design a game. I don't know. I designed a bunch of games while I was there. And Steve was like one of the first people I'd go to say, can I show you a design? And he's just so good at it. I mean, he is really kind of a unicorn. Like, he's a great game designer, but he's also a fantastic developer. And that's kind of a rare, at least in my experience, a rare mix. Like, I think most designers are part developer, but I think he is excellent at both. And it's impressive to me. He's by far the better card player and deck builder than I am. So I'd show him a game and he would break it in 3 or 4 ways and just go, this, and this. And I would jokingly, of course, call him Dream Killer, because I'd rather he do that. I mean, that's helpful information I need to know. And it makes me a better designer, right? And but as far as nicknames for me, no, I don't think, other than Miller, he'd call me Miller once in a while. He's a dear man. He was in my wedding. He's just a sweet guy. He's like a brother. He's just, we were both in retail back in the day, in Wizards of the Coast retail, and then he came up through Wizards customer service into R&D, and I came up to retail, and then I started my own company called Sabretooth Games, where we did the Warhammer 40K TCG and some other games. And after I left that job, I just basically emailed the head of R&D and said, you should hire me now. So that's how I got into that. But then we just started working together, and it's just one of those things that you just get, you meet people that you just have a chemistry, you just have kind of an understanding. There's something there that you're just like, yeah. So we just always worked really well together. It's always fun to work with Steve. And that was part of the pitch. He was like, come work with me on this Disney trading card game. I'm like, dude, I love trading card games. I love Disney. I love Steve. Sign me up. Yeah. It was a good deal.
For sure.
Oh, man.
So you've said a lot this evening, I think, that is speaking directly to the Lorcana community. But if there was one thing that you wanted the Disney Lorcana community to hear from you or to take away from you, what would that be?
I mean, the people who make this game love it. We love it. We love the game. We love the characters. We love the story. And we hope, I've said this a lot, that making games is like when you get someone a gift and you're excited for them to open it. And that is because we love you guys too. Like, we want you to have a great experience, and we want you to know that, this is something that is handcrafted just for you. Like, it's something that we made with a lot of love. So that's what if I had to choose, that's it.
Well said.
I'm really proud of it, if you can't tell. Really proud.
It is something worth being proud of.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and it's nowhere near over. But it's just been wonderful to do something that I was in Shanghai a few weeks ago. What is happening? Like what?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking when you were on stage at D23. I'm like, what must be going through all of your guys' minds, sitting there on the stage with that big bright light shining on you, like, oh my gosh, we've made it, and it's not like you haven't made it up to that point, but wow, like, you had a panel at D23, and
yeah, that was cool.
And I feel like cool. I feel like it's still, like, as much as it's grown already, I feel like it even has more room to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does. I think our hope is that more Disney fans kind of take a look at it. Disney fans that may not have played a trading card game before, or know what they are. There's just a lot here for a Disney fan, and I think that's really and we've gotten a lot of Disney fans. Don't get me wrong, but I really think that we've got a ton of great gamers playing the game as well. I think that I just hope people give it a shot, and if they just want to collect, that's awesome. Like, it's a really fun game to collect, and we're constantly working on ways to make it more fun to collect. Like, the collection side of it, people say, well, what if they only collect? I'm like, only collect? That's great. Collecting is awesome. Like, let them collect. It's great. But my hope is that some of them will play the game and go, oh, this is actually pretty fun. Like this is a pretty fun way to get more out of my cards and meet people and strengthen my bonds and things like that. So that's my hope anyway.
Okay. Next up, I'm going to give you a few rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So if you can't
trying to trick me into revealing stuff. I see your game.
Yeah.
Stay on script, James.
Yeah, right.
I've got
sneak one
army
in there.
training. I've got
Yes.
army training. You won't break me. I've got army training.
All right, here we go. Favorite ink?
Sapphire. Oh, yes, Sapphire.
The blue one.
Not blue. No, that's not what I was thinking. I was just like, I almost said Ruby's kind of a close second, but Sapphire.
Favorite rescue ranger?
I mean, well, I gotta say there are two of them. It's Chippendale. Like I can't pick one over the other. And honestly, they're kind of hard to tell apart anyway. So
One has a red nose.
I'm
And just
kidding.
with a
I'm kidding.
white shirt.
Don't eviscerate me in the comments, please. I'm kidding.
This one I think may be the toughest question possibly, or the easiest. I'm not sure. Favorite Disney Lorcana memory?
Oh, geez. Well, I'll tell you one that just came to mind. So maybe that isn't my favorite. I don't know, but I might have told this on the panel, so just stop me if you've heard it. But I was at Gen Con, and it was a mom and dad and a girl. I think she was in the 10-year-old range or something like that. And we're just having a nice chat, mostly with the mom and the dad. They were just kind of talking to me. The dad was really excited. He was kind of saying, yes, my wife will play this game with me. We're excited to play together. We've been having fun with it. Our daughter plays, and she was just kind of, the daughter's very quiet. And then we say our goodbyes. Okay, thanks. I'm so glad to meet you. Thanks for playing our game. And they start walking away. And then they get 10 paces away. The little girl turns around and comes up to me, and she can't even look me in the eyes, and she just kind of says, "I just want to say, I really love your game. It really brings the magic of Disney, and I think it's really fun." And then she just turns around and goes back to her parents. You could tell she had to kind of get her courage up a little bit, right? And I said, "Young lady, you are a delight." And her father said, "Well, her name's Delilah." And I said, "Well, that's delightful, Delilah." So there you go. That's one of my favorite memories. It was so sweet. It's hard to pick one because there's been so many like that. But that one popped into my head when you asked, and so I think that bears. That's a good vote for my brain. That must be one of my favorites.
That's a good memory.
Yeah. So, if you could watch any movie besides Sword in the Stone, which one would it be?
Princess and the Frog. I love that film. It's a great one. It's my favorite princess movie. It's got such great. It's so different than the other ones, and Tiana's a great character. Ray is amazing. I love Ray. Evangeline. He's great. His story arc is really impressive. Like it's such a fun story. Now, if it's just from a musical standpoint, then it's Moana. The music of Moana is just transcendent, in my opinion. And very, very excited for Moana too, by the way. But yeah, I would say Princess and the Frog. Definitely.
Nice.
Now I feel like I need a Ryan Miller movie breakdown podcast.
Just talk about movies. I'm down. Let's do it. I've seen them. I've seen some movies. I've seen some movies.
We know you've seen quite a few movies because it's research.
It is though. That is, we're watching. That's how Tamatoa Drab Little Crab came to be. I was watching the movie, and that his first line says, "I was a drab little," and that's a great song. I love that song. Did you like the song? And I'm like, oh, we got to do that. We got to do Drab Little Crab. And even the other day, I was watching Sword in the Stone while I was doing the dishes. And even then, I was like, oh, that could be a card. Oh, that could be a card. Oh, we should make that. Because you can make a card out of just anything. A line, it's a character, a background thing, something. The wolf that is chasing them at the beginning and gets totally the wolf is trying to eat Arthur, and he's chasing him, but he keeps getting hit on the head and that guy. Yeah, I don't know. Let's there's all sorts of cards. So it's a lot of fun. Especially when you start looking at it. you're looking at the movies through that lens, right? Of just like, okay, what could we make into cards? And that was definitely one of the most fun parts of, because we want to make sure, like, as much as possible that the character that comes through in the mechanics of the card, right? It's one thing to, kind of paste a character onto a card. And sometimes you have to do that too. Sometimes you need abilities that are just, they're so abstract that it's hard to have that kind of one-to-one or that kind of, but as much as possible, we want the characters to feel like they do in the films and be true to themselves. So that's a fun part of it. It's watching the movies. And they're so good. There's so many good ones. It's ridiculous. There's so many good ones. And so many, like, you just go, oh my gosh, I forgot how good it is. I mean, I forgot how good Treasure Planet is. That's a great film. It's so good. It's so fun. Or even Lilo and Stitch. Like, I hadn't seen it in a while. And so watching that film again, it's so good. It's got so many great little details, so much interesting character. Like, it's Nani and Lilo are such a fascinating relationship and fascinating characters and so different than other Disney stories. I mean, I love Stitch, but I mean, just that relationship, I think, could have been a whole movie in and of itself. And Stitch adds a wonderful kind of X factor, right? But man, you just watch these movies again, you're like, wow. It's like, wow, it's a good job.
It's already turning into movies with Ryan Miller.
There we go.
So now the last question, the last one. This is a hard-hitting one.
Okay.
Do you really sing the lyrics whenever you play a song card?
Oh yeah. How can you not? How can you not? One jump ahead of the bread line, one swing ahead of the sword. I steal only what I can't afford. That's everything. I mean, you got to
if I had a voice
let
like
it go.
yours, maybe I would.
No, that's better when you have your voice. Like, it's your voice. That's awesome. Let it go, let it go. I mean, it's so much fun to sing these songs, right? I got friends on the other side. Like, it's just, I mean, I remember, coming up with that with Steve, and it's funny because I don't remember it as much as he does. I don't remember that I came up with the rules. Apparently I came up with how they work. I don't recall this at all, but I do remember having that discussion with Steve of, like, we should have songs in the game. I think that'd be really fun. It'd be really Disney. Songs are part of the DNA of Disney. Like, we should have songs in there, but like in a meaningful way. Like, that was important. It couldn't just be like, it's an action card that just has a lyric on it and it does a thing. Like, that to me wasn't good enough. And so I came as Steve, to hear Steve tell it, because honestly I don't recall, but I came up with like 2 or 3 different ways that it could work in the game. The simplest one was the one we went with, and I think I was pretty tickled that it worked out. And it actually added like a strategic choice. It's not just kind of no, you always played as an action. Like, no, sometimes playing it with a character is actually the right thing to do, and I think that's really interesting. And so I just wanted, and then of course it does add that thing where if you're in a room full of Lorcana players, you'll hear random bits of songs here and there, and that's just super fun, man. It's so fun, and so glad that we finally got your welcome out there, because that's one of my favorites, especially when you say it in the right context, like I did at the panel, right? Like, I couldn't believe Shane just set me up. I don't remember what he was saying, but it sounded a bit braggy, like we were bragging a little bit. So I was like, and then he just stopped talking and left that little beat, and I'm like, oh, here it goes. That's where I'm going to say it. What can I say except you're welcome? But the card is so great because it's like, oh, I got rid of your best character, but hey, you get 2 cards. You're welcome. Come on, you got 2 cards. It's a lot of fun.
Bonus, extra. Only it's in the ink. That's Clarabelle's going to just give you those cards back, so it's not really card advantage, is it?
That's true. All right. Well, our time is fast approaching an end here, but we wanted to thank you again for spending your evening with us.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've learned a lot, and I've enjoyed all these memories, and just the love that you and Team Lorcana has for the game is so evident, and it goes. It's very well. Like, it shows through, and I cannot wait for these Disney Lorcana quests. I can't wait to see what those are all about. But we're gonna leave it at that. So, if you liked what you heard, you can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe on the podcasting platform of your choice, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.